If your bathroom sink is draining water very slowly, it's probably because there is hair or some other type of clog inside the pipe. When you look underneath the sink, you may have a similar setup with a shiny rod which moves and holds in place a pop-up stopper, and you can see it here in action from the top. It's a great setup, but not without problems. This metal rod extends into the draining pipe and collects your hair one at a time. And as you can imagine, it becomes a huge clog after a while. And the second problem could be here on the bottom. And here's a different angle on this pipe. It looks like a letter P and called P-trap. There is always water on the bottom of this P-trap. And this water stops sewer gases from entering your home through the pipe. It also collects all kinds of debris on the bottom of this pipe. And after a while, the water flow may be reduced, so it needs to be cleaned. And by the way, if you ever dropped a piece of jewelry into the sink, it could be waiting for you right here on the bottom of this P-trap. You could easily clean it up yourself, but before you unscrew anything, put some kind of container underneath the pipe to collect residual water. First, unscrew the nut, which holds pop-up stopper assembly. If it's made out of plastic, you should be able to do it by hand. If not, you may need to use pair of pliers. Now remove the rod and let it just hang on the side. Now unscrew P-trap pipe. And again, if it's made out of plastic, you should be able to do it by hand. Otherwise, you may have to use a large pair of channel locks to loosen it up and then continue by hand. And of course, it's better to use a pair of rubber gloves if you have them, because this water is not very clean and it smells pretty bad too. Obviously, it's difficult to do it with one hand only, and I didn't want to use my clean hand, but looks like I'm gonna have to. I don't see a lot of debris inside the P-trap, but it's still a good idea to clean it just in case. At this time, you should be able to lift up and completely remove the pop-up stopper, and you would probably see a hair clog inside the pipe. I would remove this hair clog, and if you have a weak stomach, I suggest you don't watch for the next 20 seconds. Yep, and here it is, a large hair clog. I think I just partially removed it. And let me get the rest of it as well. Alright, and it's all done. Before you reassemble those pipes, it's better to clean up as much as you can. It doesn't have to be sterile clean, but clean enough to make a good seal connection in between pipes, so the water does not leak out after you put them together. Also clean up this metal rod and the ball on top of it. This metal rod looks rusted, but should be okay for now. However, when next time I have to remove a hair clog, I would probably have to replace this rod as well. Now you can drop the pop-up stopper back in its place, but make sure this hole is facing the faucet. That's where that metal rusted rod needs to be inserted. Get this metal rod and insert it back into the pipe. Move this rod up and down, and at the same time watch the pop-up stopper going up and down. That means you got it right. If it's not moving, pull out the rod, realign, and try again. Once you verify that the rod sits correctly, you can screw the nut back in its place. You can do it by hand, make it tight, but don't over tighten at this time. You can always come back and tighten just a little bit more if you see a water drip from there. And now it's time to reinstall the P-trap. Make sure that the rubber gasket sits right on top of the P-trap, then cover it up with the nut and tighten it just about halfway. The lower side of a P-trap does not have a rubber gasket. It's plastic on top of plastic, and if it's clean enough, it should make a good watertight seal. Tighten each side of a P-trap just a little at a time, and as you work your way around it, the pipe will readjust itself and eventually it would be tight and completely sealed out. Now completely dry out the area, so you can test it out and make sure there is not a single water drip in the connections you've just made. Turn on the faucet and let it run for a couple of minutes. Make sure that it drains well, and then look underneath the sink. This area should be very dry, but if it's not, maybe you need to tighten some of the connections you just made just a little bit more. But don't force it too much, don't want to break anything and cause even bigger problem. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends, subscribe, and also hit the like button. Thanks!